Colonial Boston and the Massachusetts Bay Colonies by Aidan Phillips. A key individual in early colonial Boston was a man named John Winthrop. John Winthrop was an early colonist who became the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. He played a key role in the Bay Colony and governed the colony for the majority of its existence, which was 12 out of its 20 years. Winthrop came to the colonies wealthy due to a previous career in England as a successful lawyer. Winthrop had three key rivals, the first being the more conservative Thomas Dudley, and the last two being the more liberal Roger Williams and Henry Vane. Winthrop was a big believer in the Puritan beliefs of a city upon a hill and established himself as a leader when he published a book outlining these beliefs called A Model of Christian Charity. From 1630 to 1642, 15 to 20,000 people settled in the Massachusetts Bay Colony, who were almost all of English descent. Up until 1880, about 95% of the overseas immigrants to Massachusetts came from Britain, Ireland, and Northern Europe, the other 5% being indigenous people. The Massachusetts Bay Colony economy was heavily dependent on shipbuilding, fishing, fur, and lumber trades. Its most profitable trade or craft was farming, and which consisted of these things called cash crops, which were the most profitable crops. And these cash crops were corn, beans, and squash. The New England colonies were also full of forests, which gave the colonists a natural resource of trees, which also went into lumber trades, which was their second most profitable. In terms of globalization, the early Massachusetts Bay Colony had a lot of weight when it came to trade. In 1629, the Massachusetts Bay Colony had obtained from King Charles a charter empowering the company to trade and colonize almost all of New England, which granted England a superior land as well as more and more natural resources over other companies in Europe, over other countries in Europe, and so forth. So it basically had a big impact on the world trade and giving England even more power in the trade industry in terms of natural resources. The Massachusetts Bay Colonies, especially pertaining to the city of Boston, have changed drastically in the previous era or decades, especially in terms of population as well as housing. Now there are massive apartments which can hold many, many people, opposed to the old stone houses and wood houses back in colonial times. The city is modern in terms of having massive skyscrapers and new research facilities and buildings. And one big trend in the city of Boston is tourism, actually generated by the Bay Colonies and the events that happened in Boston. One big tourism place is in Cambridge, which holds a lot of trails as well as a lot of American Revolution events happen in Cambridge, as well as just a lot of intact houses. And there's also one landmark pertaining to the city of Boston would be when the Boston Tea Party occurred. That generates a lot of tourism in terms of the landmark where it happened in the Boston Harbor, as well as museums which hold the old tea crates and old tea bags. The trends of the period were mainly just labor. Unless you were extremely wealthy, you would spend most of your days working. The people who provided the materials were lumberjacks and farmers who provided lumber and crops. And the people who consumed them was pretty much everybody. And the key trends in society in terms of clothing, clothing varied from different classes. You would dress in nice belt buckles and shoes, shiny accessories on them. And if you're a farmer, you just mourn just like slacks and beat up old clothing. Entertainment, there wasn't a whole lot of entertainment. And inventions and technology were mainly in farming, like plows. And the issues or social conflicts in society were mainly between the Puritans and the non-Puritans, who clashed over beliefs, especially in the economy. The government which oversaw everything was obviously England. In terms of the individuals, it was the governor who had the most power was John Winthrop, and then second in line was Dudley, and then the two others were Rogers Williams and Henry Vane, third and fourth. Winthrop governed over the colonies with the big Puritan view and the chapel on the hill type view. And the big clashes in terms of government were between Winthrop, Dudley, Roger Williams, and Henry Vane. Dudley was more of a conservative, and while Roger Williams and Henry Vane were more liberals, and they clashed in terms of beliefs in government through those categories. And here are the two key sources that I used. Thanks for watching.